Your prerequisite is TimeMaker Matrix Lesson 9, Load Leveling Part 2, Calendar. In this tutorial, upon having studied the previous ones, we're going to take a look at how it all comes together in the workload function. It is presented as this icon of a bar graph, and it's called the Show Columns Workload icon. The purpose of the workload function is to show the workload per user, and by that, allow better planning of current and future work. As you know from the production items lessons, when you assign a production item to yourself or another, you can define the time which will need to be invested in executing that task. That time is presented at the workload section of the matrix at the bottom, and here it is. If no time has been entered, the system will assign a default value as the time for that task. The system will then indicate that default time as the time for that task. It won't give a time set by the user, since obviously the user didn't set it. Therefore, it's important for users to set the estimated time for each task, or the workload cannot really be accurately estimated. The workload can also include the time occupied by meetings, action list items, and emails. So, clicking on this workload button will toggle between showing or hiding the workload bar. Now we're going to talk about what we are actually seeing down at the workload section at the bottom of the matrix. We see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. These numbers relative to the bar graphs say how many hours of the day are taken up with work. If the graph is up to 5, for example, then 5 hours are planned for an item or items. The bar graphs with dotted outer borders are the ones with planned time, and the ones with solid outer borders are the unplanned times. So in this example, we see Mary Rose has 2 hours of unplanned work and then another hour of planned work. So we can look at any performer and we can know, okay, this is how many hours are taken up for that day. Maybe he is quite busy, or maybe he has some time for other work to be assigned. Make sense? Clicking here opens a pull-down menu and will present the following options. It says display unplanned items as none. This is the first thing. So with the following few buttons, notice how it affects the workload bar at the bottom. If you select none, any production item where the estimated time was not registered by the user before assigning the task will just not be displayed at all in the workload bar. Okay, next is 1 hour. Any production item without an estimated assigned time will be displayed in the workload bar as a 1 hour action. Next is 2 hours. Any production item without an estimated time will be displayed as an action of 2 hours time. This is, by the way, the default setting for displaying production items with an unassigned plan time. Next is 4 hours. Any production item without an estimated time will be displayed as a 4-hour action. And finally is 6 hours. Any production item without an estimated time will be displayed as a 6-hour action. Next is user-defined time. Right now it says 45 minutes. Using this function, you can define the time for unplanned production items to be displayed. This is done by clicking this little wrench icon. There you can assign hours by adding H after the number, or minutes by adding an M after the number or numbers. You cannot do both hours and minutes. So, in this case, it says 45M or 45 minutes. But we can say, for example, 3 hours, and then we click OK. And immediately it gets selected as 3 hours. And we'll put it back to 2 hours, which is the default setting. So now we will take a look at the remainder of the options in the pull-down menu. Next is Show Both Side by Side. This function will display the production items with planned execution times next to those with unplanned execution times per performer. It will display it as 2 bar graphs next to each other rather than one accumulation of all the time for the day for the performer. Remember, the bar graph showing a dotted outer border is the one with planned time, and the bar graph with a solid outer border is the unplanned time indication. So here it is. As you can see, there are now 2 bar graphs per performer. This is useful so you can see the day's exact planned time accumulation for tasks, as well as that with an estimated time accumulation. Next is Show Usernames. When this is selected, the workload panel will show the usernames, and when it's unselected, it will show the real names. So we'll unselect show usernames. Now we'll select it again. Do you see? And we'll unselect it. And also we'll unselect show both side by side. The final option is show time after name. When this is selected, the workload panel will show the total assigned time for that day by production items. As you can see, if we make it a bit higher, it tells us exactly how much time is planned for each person for that day. If we then unselect this option, it will hide the time. Okay, now finally, selecting any item on the matrix will highlight the corresponding part in the workload panel. See? Also, hovering over a specific workload box will select the corresponding item on the matrix. For example, if we go here and we highlight over it, it immediately selects that item on the matrix. Lastly, double-clicking the item on the box in the matrix or on the workload panel will open that item. So we double-click here on the matrix, it opens it, or if we go down here and we double-click on it, it opens it as well. And that's your workload overview. And that concludes TimeMaker Matrix Lesson 10. Your next recommended lesson is Various Functions, Lesson 11. See you there.